President Marcus Hartwell stood in the Oval Office at 3 in the morning, staring at a manila folder that had just shattered his entire worldview. Coffee in his hand had gone cold an hour ago, but he hadn't noticed. Hell, he hadn't even blinked in the last 10 minutes. So, he said to the shadowy figure sitting across from his desk, "You are telling me that every single conspiracy theorist was right? That Roswell actually happened, and we have been sitting on alien contact for 77 years." Director Coleman of the Department of Extraordinary Affairs, a department that apparently existed despite never appearing on any budget Marcus had ever seen, nodded grimly. "Not just contact, Mr. President. Active cooperation, trade agreements, technology exchanges, the works." Marcus laughed, but it came out hollow and slightly hysterical. "Trade agreements? With who?" "Little green men. Actually, sir, they are more of a bluish purple. And they are not little." The president's laugh died in his throat. "You are serious. Dead serious. The Kaelari have been our business partners since 1952. They provide us with selective technology upgrades in exchange for what they call biological samples and cultural data." Biological samples. Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Please tell me that doesn't mean what I think it means." Coleman's silence was answer enough. From his perspective 3 solar systems away, Fleet Admiral Kethnal of the Kaelari Expansion Force was having a much better morning. Well, what passed for morning in the endless void of space? His flagship, the Dominion's Edge, hung in perfect orbit around the third moon of Kepler, 442b, and his latest batch of intelligence reports from Earth made for fascinating reading. The humans have elected a new leader. His aide, Subcommander Rixtel, reported with barely concealed amusement. "This one seems curious about our arrangement." Kethnal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his species. The Kaelari were tall, elegant beings with skin that shifted between blue and purple depending on their mood, and right now, his was trending toward a worried violet. Curious how? He's asking questions. The right questions. Our embedded assets report he's been briefed on Project Starbridge. Kethnal leaned back in his command chair, his elongated fingers drumming against the armrest. "That's inconvenient. How much does he know?" "Everything, sir. The technology transfers, the genetic research, the abduction protocols. Everything." The Admiral's skin deepened to a dark purple. In 77 years of dealing with humans, they'd never had a leader who actually wanted to know the truth. Most presidents were perfectly happy to let sleeping dogs lie, especially when those dogs were 7 feet tall, technologically superior, and had a habit of probing people. Interesting, Kethnal mused. This Marcus Hartwell might actually be a problem. Back on Earth, Marcus was discovering just how deep the rabbit hole went. The underground facility beneath Area 51 wasn't just a storage facility. It was a fully operational research complex, complete with living quarters, laboratories, and what appeared to be a goddamn intergalactic embassy. "This is insane," Marcus muttered as he walked through corridors that shouldn't exist. "This is absolutely, completely, utterly insane." Dr. Amanda Foster, the facility's head researcher, fell into step beside him. She was a woman in her 50s with graying hair and the kind of tired eyes that came from keeping universe-shattering secrets for decades. "I know it's a lot to take in, Mr. President," she said, "but you need to understand, this partnership has advanced human technology by centuries. Medical breakthroughs, computing power, energy systems, at what cost?" Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. "Coleman mentioned biological samples. What exactly are we giving them?" Dr. Foster's expression grew uncomfortable. "DNA samples, tissue cultures, occasionally volunteers." Volunteers. The word came out flat and cold. People who sign very comprehensive non-disclosure agreements in exchange for very generous compensation. It's all completely legal and legal. Marcus's voice rose. "We are running a human trafficking operation for aliens, and you are worried about the paperwork?" "It's not trafficking," Dr. Foster protested. "These people know exactly what they are signing up for. They undergo medical examinations, psychological evaluations, temporary memory modifications. Memory modifications? Marcus felt his blood pressure spiking. We are brainwashing people, not brainwashing. Selective memory editing. The Kaelari technology allows us to remove traumatic memories while leaving the volunteer with a sense of having participated in important research. It's actually quite humane. Marcus held up a hand. Stop. Just stop talking. I need to see them. See who, sir? The aliens. The Kaelari. I need to meet them face to face. Dr. Foster's face went pale. Sir, that's not possible. Protocols? I don't give a damn about protocols. I'm the President of the United States, and apparently, I've been kept in the dark about the most significant event in human history. So either you arrange a meeting, or I go public with everything I know and let the chips fall where they may. The threat hung in the air like a loaded gun. Dr. Foster knew, as did everyone else in the facility, that public disclosure would end everything. The panic, the chaos, the complete breakdown of social order. It would make every apocalypse movie look like a children's cartoon. I will make some calls, he said quietly. Meanwhile, in a secure communication chamber 3 levels down, an entirely different conversation was taking place. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, formerly of the 82nd Airborne, now the Earth Defense Initiative, another department that didn't officially exist, was having what he liked to call a come-to-Jesus meeting with his squad. Listen up, people, Morrison said, his scarred face serious. Word from upstairs is that the new president is poking his nose where it doesn't belong. Command wants us ready for potential containment protocols. Corporal Lisa Zhang, a former Marine sniper who'd volunteered for the EDI after a close encounter with a Kaelari scout ship, raised her hand. Define containment, Sergeant. Morrison's expression darkened. You know exactly what I mean, Zhang. We have got our orders. If the president becomes a security risk, we are talking about assassinating the President of the United States, interrupted Specialist Tom Bradley, his voice incredulous. That's what you were suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Morrison replied. I'm following orders. The same orders we all swore to follow when we joined this unit. The same orders that have kept this planet from becoming a Kaelari colony for the past 7 decades. The room fell silent. Every member of Morrison's squad had seen the classified footage from the early days of First Contact. They'd watched human soldiers armed with conventional weapons face off against Kaelari forces equipped with energy weapons and personal force fields. It hadn't been a fight. It had been a massacre. The partnership hadn't been born out of friendship or mutual respect. It had been born out of necessity, out of the cold recognition that humanity was vastly outgunned and had exactly 2 choices: cooperation or extinction. The Kaelari could turn every major city on Earth into glass in less than an hour. Morrison continued. The only reason they haven't is because we have been useful to them. We give them what they want. They give us enough technology to slowly catch up. It's not a perfect system, but it's kept us alive. But what if President Hartwell is right? Zhang asked quietly. What if there's another way? Morrison's laugh was bitter. There is no other way, Corporal. Trust me, I have seen what happens when humans try to fight the Kaelari on equal terms. It doesn't end well. He was thinking of Captain Sarah Williams, his former commanding officer who tried to organize a resistance cell 5 years ago. The Kaelari had made an example of her entire unit. Nothing left but shadows burned into concrete walls. So we protect the status quo, Bradley said, even if it means becoming killers ourselves. We have always been killers, Bradley. That's what makes us useful to them. Humans are the only species in the known galaxy that seems to enjoy warfare. The Kaelari find that fascinating. Back in the Oval Office, President Hartwell was discovering just how alone he really was. His chief of staff, his national security advisor, his secretary of defense, they all knew. They'd all known for years, some of them for decades. The conspiracy wasn't some shadowy cabal of evil men in smoke-filled rooms. It was his entire government. How long? He asked Secretary of Defense Patricia Wells, a woman he'd trusted implicitly until about 4 hours ago. I was brief during the Clinton administration, she admitted. It's not something you can just walk away from, Marcus. The moment you know, you're a part of it. Part of what? Part of selling out our own species. Wells sighed. Part of keeping our species alive. Do you have any idea what the Kaelari are capable of? We are not talking about some peaceful alien visitors who want to share technology and hold hands around a campfire. We're talking about a militaristic expansion force that's conquered 17 different worlds. Earth is just their latest acquisition. Then why haven't they just taken over completely? Because they don't need to. We're doing exactly what they want us to do. We are providing them with genetic diversity, cultural data, and entertainment. In exchange, they're slowly upgrading our technology and keeping us docile. Marcus felt sick. Entertainment, reality television, social media, human conflict. They find us amusing. We're like a nature preserve to them. Marcus, a zoo where the animals don't know they are in cages. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Every war, every conflict, every moment of human drama. It was all just a show for their alien overlords. There has to be another way, he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he could hear how naive they sounded. Wells shook her head. The last president who tried to break the agreement was Kennedy. You know how that ended. The implication hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus Hartwell, the most powerful man on Earth, had just discovered that he was nothing more than a middle manager in an operation run by beings who could snuff out human civilization with a thought. But as he sat there in the darkness of his office, surrounded by the weight of 77 years of lies, Marcus Hartwell made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find another way. Even if it killed him 3 days later, Marcus Hartwell was standing in what looked like the set of a science fiction movie, except the aliens were real, and they were staring at him with the kind of polite interest usually reserved for zoo animals. Fleet Admiral Kaelari had agreed to the meeting, but on his terms. The encounter was taking place aboard a Kaelari transport vessel that had landed in the Nevada desert under cover of darkness. The ship was sleek, organic-looking, and absolutely terrifying in its casual display of technological superiority. Mr. President, Kaelari said, his voice carrying a musical quality that somehow made English sound like poetry. How refreshing to finally meet you in person. Most of your predecessors preferred to maintain plausible deniability. Marcus tried not to stare, but it was impossible. The Kaelari admiral was nearly 8 feet tall, with skin that shifted between deep blue and purple like a living aurora. His face was vaguely humanoid, but elongated, with large, expressive eyes that seemed to see everything. Most of my predecessors were cowards, Marcus replied, earning a surprised ripple of color across Kaelari's skin. Fascinating. You humans never cease to amaze us with your directness. The admiral gestured to a chair that seemed to mold itself to Marcus's body as he sat down. I assume you have questions. Just one, really. Why haven't you simply conquered us outright? Kaelari's skin shifted to what Marcus was beginning to recognize as amusement, a lighter shade of purple with hints of silver. Conquest is such a crude concept, don't you think? Why destroy something when you can cultivate it? Why rule through fear when you can rule through dependency? So we are pets. You are partners. Junior partners, admittedly, but partners nonetheless. The admiral leaned forward, his movements fluid and graceful. Your species has something unique, Mr. President. Something we have never encountered in all our travels across the galaxy. What's that? Unpredictability. Creativity born from chaos. Most species, when faced with superior technology and overwhelming force, either submit completely or fight until extinction. Humans, you adapt. You negotiate. You find ways to survive that shouldn't be possible. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You are studying us. We are learning from you. Your capacity for violence, your artistic expression, your social dynamics. It's all utterly fascinating. Do you know that we have adopted 17 different human innovations in the past decade alone? Military tactics, entertainment formats, even culinary techniques. And in exchange, you give us just enough technology to keep us docile. Kaelari's expression grew more serious, his skin darkening. We give you enough technology to survive what's coming. That wasn't what Marcus had expected to hear. What's coming? The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Mr. President. The Kaelari Empire has enemies. Powerful enemies who would see your species as nothing more than a carbon-based nuisance to be eliminated. Our protection comes at a price, but it's a price that keeps your world from becoming a burned-out cinder floating in space. Before Marcus could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Kaelari's skin immediately shifted to a deep, angry red, the Kaelari equivalent of panic. "What the hell is that?" Marcus demanded. "Long-range sensors have detected an incoming fleet," Kaelari said, his musical voice now sharp with urgency. "Vorthack assault ships. They have found Earth." Meanwhile, in the depths of the Area 51 facility, Dr. Amanda Foster was watching her life's work crumble in real time. The detection grid that monitored space around Earth, a grid built with Kaelari technology and maintained by human scientists, was lighting up like a Christmas tree. "How many ships?" she asked her lead technician, Dr. Robert Kim. 14 confirmed contacts, with more appearing every minute," Kim replied, his voice tight with fear. "They're not trying to hide their approach. This is a full-scale invasion force." Dr. Foster felt her stomach drop. In all her years working with the Kaelari, she'd heard whispers about the Vorthack, a species of aggressive, militaristic beings who considered the Kaelari expansion into their territory an act of war. But she'd never imagined they'd actually find Earth. "Give me Colonel Morrison," she ordered. "We need to implement the Omega Protocol." The Omega Protocol. Even saying the words made her feel sick. It was the last resort, the final contingency plan that had been developed in case humanity's partnership with the Kaelari was ever discovered by hostile forces. It was also, quite possibly, a death sentence for everyone on the planet. Colonel Morrison, Jake's older brother and the commanding officer of all Earth Defense Initiative forces, arrived within minutes, his expression grim. "How long do we have?" he asked without preamble. "The Vorthack fleet will reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours, Dr. Foster replied. "The Kaelari fleet is moving to intercept, but they are outnumbered 3-1. Morrison's jaw tightened. "Then we implement Omega." "Sir, that means I know what it means, Doctor." "But if the Vorthack break through the Kaelari defensive line, they won't just conquer Earth. They will sterilize it. Every man, woman, and child on this planet will be dead within 24 hours. Dr. Foster nodded reluctantly. The Omega Protocol called for the immediate activation of every piece of Kaelari technology on Earth, turning the planet into a fortress. It also meant revealing the truth to the entire world, ending 77 years of secrecy in one catastrophic moment. "Do it," Morrison ordered. Across the globe, hidden facilities began powering up systems that had remained dormant for decades. Orbital defense platforms, cloaked behind holographic projections, suddenly materialized in Earth's upper atmosphere. Weapons that had been dismissed as impossible by human science came online, their targeting systems locking onto the approaching Vorthack fleet to end cities around the world. People looked up to see lights in the sky that had never been there before. News networks exploded with breaking reports of unidentified objects in Earth orbit. Social media lit up with videos and photographs of technology that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. President Marcus Hartwell, still aboard Kaelari's ship, watched the chaos unfold on multiple screens displaying Earth's surface. "This is what you were protecting us from," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Vorthack are just one of many threats," Kaelari replied, his attention focused on tactical displays showing the approaching enemy fleet. "But they're the most immediate. Your planet is about to become a battlefield, Mr. President. The question is whether humanity will survive it." On the surface, Sergeant Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his military career, and that was saying something. His squad had been deployed to downtown Las Vegas. Apparently, someone had decided that Sin City was the perfect place to make humanity's first public stand against an alien invasion. "This is insane," Corporal Zhang muttered as she set up her rifle on the roof of the Bellagio. "We are about to fight aliens with weapons that are 70 years behind theirs." "Actually," Morrison replied, checking his own weapon, a hybrid human Kaelari rifle that fired coherent energy bolts. "Our weapons are only about 20 years behind theirs. The Kaelari have been upgrading us slowly." "Oh, well," That makes me feel so much better, Zhang said sarcastically. Specialist Bradley was monitoring communications, his face pale. Sarge, you need to hear this. The president is making an emergency broadcast in 10 minutes. He can tell everyone about the aliens. Morrison felt his stomach sink. Once the secret was out, there was no going back. Humanity would either unite against the common threat or tear itself apart in panic and paranoia. Well, he said, at least we won't have to lie to our families anymore. President Hartwell's broadcast was unlike anything in human history. Standing in the Oval Office, with Kaelari visible in the background, a sight that would have been impossible to explain just hours earlier, he told the world the truth. My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, he began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to reveal. For 77 years, our governments have kept a secret that has shaped the course of human civilization. We are not alone in the universe, and we haven't been alone for a very long time. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. Stock markets crashed within minutes. Emergency services were overwhelmed with calls. In some cities, rioting began almost immediately. In others, people simply stood in the streets, staring at the sky in wonder and terror. But Marcus Hartwell wasn't finished. The Kaelari Empire has been our partner for nearly 8 decades, he continued. They have provided us with technology, medical advances, and protection from threats we never knew existed. In return, we have provided them with knowledge, resources, and yes, volunteers for the research programs. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Today, that partnership is being tested. An enemy fleet is approaching Earth, intent on our destruction. The Kaelari fleet is moving to intercept them, but they cannot do it alone. For the first time in human history, we must fight not just for our country, not just for our planet, but for our very survival as a species. In orbit above Earth, the battle was already beginning. Vortex ships, angular, predatory vessels that looked like they'd been designed by someone's nightmares, engaged the sleek Kaelari fleet in a deadly dance of energy weapons and defensive shields. Fleet Admiral Kaelari, now commanding the battle from his flagship, watched as his forces took heavy casualties. The Vortex had come prepared for war, and they had the numbers to back up their aggression. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the surface. The humans are requesting permission to join the battle. Kaelari's skin rippled with surprise. In all his years of partnership with humanity, he never expected them to volunteer for a space battle. Their technology, while improved, was still far behind both Kaelari and Vortex systems. Put them through, he ordered. The voice that came over the comm was unmistakably human, rough, determined, and slightly crazy. This is Colonel Morrison, Earth Defense Initiative. We have got 47 pilots ready to launch in hybrid fighters. Request permission to engage the enemy. Colonel Morrison, Kaelari replied. Your aircraft are not equipped for this level of combat. The Vortex will destroy you in minutes. Morrison's laugh was grim. Admiral, with all due respect, humans have been doing impossible things since we figured out how to make fire. Besides, we've got nothing left to lose. Kaelari made a decision that would change the course of the battle, and possibly the galaxy. Permission granted, Colonel. Welcome to the war. The hybrid fighters that launched from hidden bases around the world were testament to 77 years of secret cooperation. They combined human engineering with Kaelari technology, creating spacecraft that were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Vortex had encountered before. Pilot Captain Diana Hayes, formerly of the Air Force, now of the Earth Defense Initiative, found herself leading a squadron of fighters into a battle that would have been pure science fiction just days earlier. Remember, she told her pilots over the comm, these ships handle differently than anything you have flown before. Trust your instincts, but don't try to be heroes. We are here to buy the Kaelari time to regroup. What happened next surprised everyone, including the Vortex. The human pilots, with their unpredictable tactics and willingness to take insane risks, began to turn the tide of battle. They flew patterns no sane pilot would attempt, used maneuvers that violated every rule of space combat, and somehow, impossibly, began taking down Vortex ships. How are they doing that? Subcommander Rixtel asked in amazement as he watched human fighters weave through Vortex formation like they were dancing. They are crazy, Kethnal replied, but there was admiration in his voice. Beautifully, wonderfully crazy. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the Vortex fleet was in full retreat, their invasion force crippled by the unexpected alliance between Kaelari technology and human audacity. President Hartwell, watching from the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. The secret was out, the world was in chaos, but humanity had proven something important. They could hold their own in a galactic conflict. What happens now? He asked Kethnal, who had returned to Earth for an emergency meeting. Now, the Admiral replied, his skin cycling through colors that suggested deep thought. We have a real partnership. Not the managed relationship we have maintained for decades, but a true alliance. The galaxy has seen what humans are capable of when they fight for their survival. That changes everything. Marcus Hartwell smiled for the first time in days. So we are not pets anymore. No, Mr. President. You are something far more valuable. You are allies. And in a galaxy full of threats, there's nothing more precious than an ally who will fight the impossible fight and somehow find a way to win. Outside, the sun was rising over a world that would never be the same. The age of secrets was over. The age of partnership, real partnership, had begun. And somewhere in the depths of space, other species were beginning to take notice of the small blue planet and its remarkably stubborn inhabitants. The Roswell truth was finally out. And it was just the beginning. But as dawn broke over Washington, D.C., President Hartwell was about to learn that some truths come with consequences that make alien invasions look like minor inconveniences. Mr. President, his chief of staff burst into the Situation Room, her face pale with panic. We have a problem. Multiple problems. Marcus looked up from the tactical displays he'd been studying. What now? More alien fleets? Worse, the Russians and Chinese are mobilizing their militaries. They are claiming the alien alliance gives us an unfair advantage, and they're demanding immediate access to Kaelari technology. The European Union is threatening economic sanctions unless we share everything. And sir, there are reports of mass panic in major cities worldwide. Through the reinforced windows of the bunker, Marcus could hear the distant sound of sirens and what might have been gunfire. The world hadn't just learned about aliens. It had learned that America had been keeping the biggest secret in human history for 77 years. Fleet Admiral Kethnal, who had been quietly observing human reactions through multiple data feeds, spoke up. This is precisely why we maintained secrecy for so long. Your species has a tendency toward explosive reactions. You think, Marcus said sarcastically. Maybe next time lead with, hey, there are hostile aliens who want to kill everyone instead of let's run secret experiments on your citizens. Dr. Foster, who had arrived from Area 5-1 just hours earlier, cleared her throat nervously. Sir, there's something else. The disclosure protocol included releasing certain classified files to prove our claims. Some of those files, they contain information about individuals who volunteered for the research programs. Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. Please tell me you didn't just release a list of everyone who's been abducted by aliens. Not abducted. Dr. Foster protested weakly. Volunteers who signed. I don't care what they signed. Marcus exploded. You just painted targets on thousands of innocent people. Every conspiracy theorist, every religious fanatic, every person looking for someone to blame is going to come after them. As if summoned by his words, reports began flooding in from around the globe. In Phoenix, a man named David Chun, no relation to any previous characters in other stories, was barricaded in his home after a mob of protesters gathered outside, convinced he was part of some alien conspiracy. In London, Dr. Rebecca Walsh, a geneticist who had worked with Kaelari biological samples, had to be evacuated by police after death threats flooded her social media. The partnership that was supposed to save humanity was tearing it apart. Colonel Morrison, monitoring communications from his command center in Nevada, was witnessing the breakdown of society in real time. This is bad, He told his brother Jake over a secure channel. I have got reports of armed militias forming across the country. They're calling themselves the Human Purity Movement, and they are targeting anyone they think collaborated with the aliens. Jake Morrison, still deployed in Las Vegas, could see the chaos from his position on the Bellagio. Below him, crowds of people filled the streets, some celebrating humanity's victory over the Vortex, others protesting the government's deception. The two groups were starting to clash. We need to establish order, Jake reported. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Negative, came the reply from his commanding officer. New orders from the Pentagon. All EDI forces are to maintain defensive positions only. Do not engage civilian populations under any circumstances. Jake stared at his radio in disbelief. Sir, people are getting hurt down there. That's not our problem anymore. Sergeant, our job is to protect the alien alliance, not police riots. For the first time in his military career, Jake Morrison seriously considered disobeying a direct order. Meanwhile, in a nondescript office building in Beijing, General Liu Wei was having a very different conversation with his own alien contact, a conversation that would have terrified anyone in the American government. The humans have revealed their alliance, General Liu said to the holographic projection of a being that definitely wasn't Kaelari. This alien was taller, more angular, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed with an inner light. We are aware, the being replied in perfect Mandarin. The Nexary Collective has been monitoring the situation with great interest, and your proposal remains unchanged. China agrees to serve as our primary contact point on Earth, and we provide you with technology that makes Kaelari science look primitive. The Americans have had their turn at Galactic partnership. Perhaps it's time for a change. General Liu smiled coldly. What do you need from us? Access to your population centers, research subjects, and most importantly, a promise that when the time comes, you will help us eliminate Kaelari presence on this world. Back in Washington, President Hartwell was discovering that alien politics were far more complicated than anyone had imagined. Kaelari had just informed him that the Kaelari Empire was not, in fact, a unified government, but rather a loose confederation of competing factions, and not all of them were friendly to humanity. You're telling me there are good aliens and bad aliens? Marcus asked, rubbing his temples against a growing headache. The situation is more nuanced than that, Kaelari replied, his skin cycling through colors that suggested stress. The faction I represent believes in gradual integration and mutual benefit, but there are others who view humans as nothing more than useful biological resources to be exploited more aggressively. And these other factions, they have been advocating for direct control of Earth for decades. The only reason they haven't acted is because our partnership has been profitable. But now that the secret is out, that calculus may change. As if summoned by their conversation, new contacts began appearing on the orbital detection grid. These weren't Vortex ships, they were Kaelari vessels, but flying different configurations and broadcasting different identification codes. The Purist fleet, Kaelari said grimly. They are coming to our store order to what they see as a failed experiment in alien-human cooperation. Dr. Amanda Foster, monitoring the new arrivals from her command center, felt her heart sink. How many ships? 27 confirmed contacts, her technician reported, all heavily armed. And sir, they're demanding to speak with Earth's leadership. The communication that came through was delivered in English, but with a cold, mechanical precision that made Kaelari's musical tones sound warm by comparison. Humans of Earth, the voice announced, I am War Commander Veltharian of the Kaelari Purity Fleet. Your planet has become a source of instability in this sector. The failed policies of Fleet Admiral Kaelari have resulted in disclosure of our operations and attraction of hostile forces to this system. This cannot be tolerated. President Hartwell grabbed the communications device. This is President Marcus Hartwell of the United States. We are prepared to discuss. You will not discuss, Veltharian interrupted. You will comply. All human governments will surrender authority to Kaelari administration. All human military forces will be disbanded. All individuals with knowledge of our technology will be relocated to processing centers for memory modification. Resistance will result in the implementation of planetary sterilization protocols. The channel went dead, leaving the Situation Room in stunned silence. Well, Marcus said after a long moment, at least now we know who the real bad guys are. Kethnal's skin had shifted to a deep, angry red. Veltharion represents everything wrong with Kaelari expansion philosophy. He sees other species as obstacles to be removed, not partners to be cultivated. Can your fleet stand against his? Not alone. My forces are depleted from the Vorthack battle, and Veltharion commands 3 times as many ships. The Admiral paused, his coloration shifting to something like determination. But perhaps we don't have to fight alone. Captain Diana Hayes, still in orbit aboard her hybrid fighter, was among the first to receive the new mission briefing. What she heard made her question whether humanity was ready for galactic politics. All pilots, came the voice of Colonel Morrison over the comm. We have a new situation. Hostile Kaelari forces are moving to establish control over Earth. Fleet Admiral Kethnal has requested our assistance in what amounts to an alien civil war. Sir, Diana replied, are we really about to fight aliens alongside other aliens? That's exactly what we are about to do, Captain. The alternative is slavery or extinction. As the human pilots prepared for another impossible battle, reports were coming in from around the globe of similar preparations. In secret bases that most people had never known existed, hybrid weapon systems were being activated. Underground bunkers were being opened, revealing stockpiles of human Kaelari technology that had been hidden for decades. But the most surprising development came from an unexpected source. In Beijing, General Liu Wei made a decision that would change the course of the conflict. Instead of revealing his secret alliance with the Nexari Collective, he chose a different path. He picked up a secure phone and placed a call to the Pentagon. This is General Liu Wei of the People's Liberation Army, he said when the call was answered. I need to speak with your President Hartwell immediately. China wishes to join the fight against the Kaelari purists. The call that followed was one of the strangest diplomatic conversations in human history. 2 nations that had been rivals for decades suddenly found themselves discussing joint military operations against alien invaders. Why should we trust you? President Hartwell asked bluntly. Because, Mr. President, General Liu replied, I have been contacted by another alien faction, one that makes the Kaelari purists look reasonable by comparison. If we don't stand together now, there may not be a humanity left to argue about. Within hours, an unprecedented alliance was forming. American, Chinese, Russian, and European military forces began coordinating their responses to the Kaelari purist ultimatum. The species that had spent millennia fighting amongst themselves was finally uniting against a common enemy from the stars. The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment humanity truly became a space-faring civilization. Unlike the previous engagement with the Vorthack, this wasn't just about survival. It was about independence, the right to choose their own destiny among the stars. Sergeant Jake Morrison, now commanding a mixed unit of American and Chinese soldiers in downtown Las Vegas, found himself working alongside people he would have considered enemies just days earlier. This is weird, Corporal Zhang commented as she helped a Chinese paratrooper set up defensive positions. Tell me about it, Jake replied. But you know what? If we're going to fight for humanity's freedom, we might as well do it as one species. The final assault came at dawn. Veltharion's fleet moved to establish orbital bombardment positions over major population centers, intending to force immediate surrender through the threat of mass casualties. They hadn't counted on humanity's most dangerous characteristic, the refusal to give up when cornered. The combined human Kaelari fleet that rose to meet them was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human tactics merged with Kaelari technology, creating strategies that were both brilliant and completely insane. President Hartwell, watching the battle unfold from his command bunker, realized that this moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. Win or lose, he said to Kethnal, we are not going back to being anyone's junior partners. The Admiral's skin rippled with what might have been approval. I wouldn't expect anything less from humans. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, Veltharian's fleet was in full retreat, his dreams of Kaelari dominance shattered by the same species he had dismissed as primitives. But more importantly, the victory had been won by an alliance of species working as equals. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic partnership, real partnership, had begun to come. As President Hartwell addressed the world one final time, he spoke not just to humans, but to the galaxy itself. To any species listening to this broadcast, he said, humanity extends an invitation. We offer friendship to those who come in peace, partnership to those who seek mutual benefit, and a warning to those who would threaten our freedom. We're no longer the isolated species we once were. We are citizens of the galaxy, and we will defend our place in it. The response from across the galaxy was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of species that had remained neutral in galactic politics suddenly expressed interest in establishing relations with the small blue planet that had somehow managed to forge alliances, win impossible battles, and fundamentally change the balance of power in their sector of space. The Roswell truth had indeed changed everything. But as Marcus Hartwell looked up at the stars, now visible through the clearing smoke of battle, he realized the real truth was just beginning to unfold. Humanity's greatest adventure was just getting started.